We are back,
We are back, Mr. Mayor.
and we are continuing on with commissioner comments. And I thank everybody. I hope everybody had a nice lunch. And Commissioner Baxter, we are with you.
Do we need, all right, so just
I
a
believe we were talking about an
Under-
iPad and
just the vendor requirement under a certain dollar amount could make processes a little faster. And where I do recognize that I am one of the newer members, I have dug into this, I have read up on it, and I have become familiar, and I didn't see a better solution than this. I'm definitely open to suggestions, but just taking status quo as status quo doesn't really seem like a great option. It doesn't solve any problems.
can I just ask what problem we're solving?
The ability for us to get anything or certain products for our offices in a timely fashion.
Yep.
All right,
Recognize Commissioner Marino.
thank you. I believe that having the procurement process that is in place right now keeps us out of trouble with the IG. But Verdina, you could weigh in on that if you have more to say about it. And, we are, because we are so beholden to our constituents, and they're the ones that really fund what we do here, and they're the ones that pay for everything that we have. I believe that the process needs to be in place to keep it consistent, whether it's 5,000 or 50,000 or 100,000, where we're discretionary. I hearken back to the city of Riviera Beach, where 3 of their commissioners got in a lot of trouble for having credit cards and using those credit cards and then getting reimbursed, and what was actually truly a county expense versus something that they thought might have been a county expense but really was a personal expense. And the process is in place, and I talk about Patty Snyder, who's the clerk in Palm Beach Gardens, who scared the living crap out of me when I first became a city council member, but she did it to protect me. And I think these policies and procedures, while they might seem archaic, maybe we can just visit them and see if there's some tweaking we can do with it. They're in place to keep us out of trouble.
And just for clarification, I don't know if I said it and you didn't understand it, but I wasn't talking about any kind of credit card. I'm talking about the requirements of using vendors. And whether you get it from a vendor, which is sometimes even more expensive because they know we are required to use that vendor. So in order to save tax dollars, which would have, I'm not saying let's use a county credit card for that. I am just saying it gives us more options. I'm always in favor of trying to get a lower cost for things. And if we aren't getting, if our vendors are having problems finding supplies, we are then beholden to just them in that supply and demand problem, was what I was trying to say. Now, if everyone else who has been here, like we like to be reminded of, has already set up everything, they've already purchased all of their supplies, they've had that luxury before the supply and demand issue, I am saying now this is a problem that maybe didn't exist.
Well, I don't know, the furniture in my
Previously.
office is probably 30 years old, and all I did when I moved in was spray paint the knobs, but I don't, I know that there's 7 commissioners up here. I know that this is a policy that's been in place a long time. We've had commissioners that have run afoul. That's why we have the policies and procedures that we have in place. So I'm not going to weigh in on this. I'm going to look to staff to help us with this. I'm not in favor, and it's just, I've seen too many people get in trouble, and one of the things that we want up here is to make sure that how we spend money is as transparent as possible, because our books get opened up and nepotism could happen. There are pluses and minuses, and I just don't want to see any of us run afoul and have the IG come down on us and say, you know, this wasn't vetted properly, and we get in trouble. And it's for you, it's for all of our protection. And whether it's a credit card or we just buy it ourselves and ask to get reimbursed, the checks and balances for that are not. The IG would have to weigh in on this, because I'm not the IG. Virginia.
Commissioner Bernard, you're recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I guess the issue that I believe that we're trying to address, which is, you know, we are policymakers. As county commissioners, we are policymakers. And, you know, before term limits, commissioners were here for a long time. And now that we don't have term limits, we have commissioners who are coming in every 4 or every 8 years. And sometimes there needs to be a place where you can have a dialogue on, you know, how do you change a policy, and so to me, I just think that how do we provide that avenue in the future to maybe make those changes? So like my suggestion would be, when you have new commissioners, they have different concerns, and maybe for the county administrator and the county attorney to work with individual commissioners to have a discussion regarding are there any issues that you would like for us to be addressed, and then to work on those, and then to eventually bring it up to the board, and then so in that way we can flush it out. But I just think that I feel like there's probably not that avenue, and you're asking for that. If that.
Yes, absolutely.
And so I don't know if it's just this one specific policy, but it's just creating that opportunity for that discussion. And how can we do that, if it's possible, you know, where a commissioner could do that?
No, I totally agree. Mayor, do you mind?
Go ahead.
Okay. This is the forum to do that. And as you said, we are the policymakers. But as you also said, we come and go in 8 years, and everybody has a different way of what they want to do. And if we don't have procedures in place, then every 4 years, a new commissioner wants to amend, change, and there needs to be a little bit of consistency. Do we need to revisit the policy? Give us the pros and cons of why the policy is in place the way it is now. Have the IG weigh in on it, because we don't want nepotism to happen in the future. There's a lot of reasons why and why not. So you've opened the door to the conversation, and I think what we could do is have staff actually do maybe a history of how we arrived at the position that we're in. Because oftentimes, I mean, I know that probably shouldn't say this out loud, but you know, we did have the FBI in this building, and we did have previous commissioners run afoul of what they were supposed to do, and that is not something I want for any of us at this dais to ever have to go through. So I like having policies and procedures in place. They can always be reviewed, and it's up to us as 7 people to say, yes, we like the way it's reviewed and in place, or no, it's not. And I think what you've done today is say, can we just open this policy up for discussion? So
Go ahead,
Thank you.
Commissioner, Vice Mayor Saxton.
Thank you very much. It's always good to get fresh blood in here, Commissioner Baxter, and I welcome that. There's 2 issues. One is, if you want to change things, would you please have your staff prepare why you want to have, what changes you want and why, and the basis for that, so that we can better prepare than to have something up here that says you want to switch the locks on the 12th floor to electronic. That may be a very good idea, and I'm looking at your staff right now. that may be a very good idea, and I may want to do that. But why don't you, we're 7 commissioners here. And tell us, do some research. Tell us, do you have it?
I actually had a report, right? I recently found out it was actually from a different area. But the lock problem, which I didn't necessarily want to put out for public review, but if you'd like me to delve into that,
Well-
that we had a box full of keys that anyone had access to.
Anytime you have an interoffice memo, you see, we're transparent. This is public record.
Yeah?
There's nothing private with us unless it's what you like for breakfast, and that's your family stuff, all right? But we do everything transparent. And that's why I have a glass desk, because I like everything to be absolutely transparent. So anytime you put anything on a government interoffice memo or anything that's been paid for by the taxpayers, they got to know about it. So if you want to change locks, if you want to change your carpet, if you want to be able to use a private laptop for public business, then do your research, have your staff do some research, or you do some research, give us a little memorandum, and let us study that, and maybe, if it's a better idea than what we have, we'll change the ordinances or we'll change the rules.
Respectfully, Commissioner, that's not the current policy that I am required to abide by. I mean, during these, I don't even have to provide what we did provide. I am just asking in this platform, because we are bound by sunshine, for some open dialect on issues I've run into. I didn't realize that this would be such a problem but I just wanted to open up and have a conversation, and I wanted to see everyone's view on it, to see if anyone else are having similar concerns, and respectfully, without constantly being reminded that I just came here.
Okay, 2 things. One, I apologize if anybody is reminding you that you just got here. Before you get a job, before you take a job, you research the job. You say, whoa, what kind of health care do you have? What kind of office am I going to have? What kind of view am I going to have? What kind of staff am I? Then you apply for the job. But if you
Respectfully, I
then
did.
if you knew what our policies are, which are all transparent and public, you still want this job, you accept that. Now, you accept the job, but you want to make changes, and that's good. Let's make the changes. But I'm not going to sit here for 2-3 hours and discuss because somebody wants the electronic locks changed on a memo that I don't have any background for, respectfully, Commissioner. You have 7, wait a minute, please. You have 7 commissioners here, you have a full staff, we're all sitting here. Why do you want, you've got to give me some background, most respectfully, other than number 2 on an interoffice memo that you want electronic locks on your doors. I need to have a little bit of background on this as to why you want this. And again, this, I am going to say to you respectfully, but this is unprofessional. It is unprofessional to come before the board without any background or research as to why you want these changes.
And this
You
is your
want- Just a
opinion.
minute, I'm not finished speaking. You want changes, you tell me what, where, and how, and then we can work on getting changes done. But to come before a Board of County Commissioners with full staff on taxpayer money that they're paying for right now, with requests that have no background. It doesn't say on number 5, you want your office carpet changed to accommodate an ADA request. I didn't know that you have asthma or you have migraine headaches. Give me a little bit of background on here so that I know what to discuss it. So that's all I'm going to say. I think that next time these comes across our desk, we need to have some background so that if changes will need to be done, we'll make them, but I need to have a little more information on it. Thank you, Mayor.
You're
Mr. Mayor,
welcome.
I believe that the county attorney should weigh in on this because we're crossing the line in regards to the sunshine, in regards to communicating with commissioners. So I believe that what we need to do is just create a process that includes the county attorney and the administrator to allow to have those discussions to be heard. And so in that way, they could be flushed out and with the administrator, and then eventually to bring it to us and for us to have a discussion. And so I don't believe that the memo, there's anything wrong with the memo, because you have to be very careful with your communication to the board.
Yeah.
Mr. Mayor, I would just say that especially things with ADA, we don't want to put on public agendas and that type of thing. It definitely would not be appropriate to put more information that was really more than necessary.
I agree. Let me just, and just to go over some of these items, and as it relates to procurement, I'm very reticent to want to make any changes to procurement. There's not, and to have it would need a much bigger discussion, because would this apply to everybody? Would it apply to every product? And I share some of the concerns some of the other folks up here have already mentioned. So on procurement, that's not something I'm comfortable supporting a change to. There may be another mechanism that the county could invoke, but that would be totally out of my hands. I do not want to be responsible, nor do I want anybody on this board. To be responsible for having to justify what they bought, why, how, where, who got the money, and I think that would be something I don't want to. I'm not comfortable going there. As it relates to some of the comments that Vice Mayor made, I share them. I don't understand some of these, some of the background, and maybe that's where Commissioner Bernard's comment of a more detailed conversation of why it's necessary, some of the background information that could be shared with the county attorney and administration, that then could be shared in a public meeting with us. And they can prepare the detailed information as to why. When I have to be clear, when I first saw the situation about the locks, I was like, I didn't understand it, because a lock, whether it's a key or a card, it's easy to bust off either one. I mean, if somebody wants into a room, they're going to get into a room. I believe in the way I treat. First off, it's not my office. It's an office I occupy that belongs to the taxpayers of Palm Beach County. And I believe that anything, I better, be willing and know that everything that is in my office is going to be publicly displayed or shown. And because, quite frankly, we do Zooms and other interviews in our offices, and there's people in there with cameras, and they're shooting everything. So that's all out there. There's no documents that I have that are private. Every document I have, again, belongs to the public, as at least my understanding of the law. And quite frankly, I don't care if there's a lock on my door or not, because the cleaning staff needs to get in there. The folks that take care of the plants need to get in there. Security needs to get in there. My staff needs to get in there. And there may be other facilities people at times need to repair things or take care of something, and they need to get into the office. So, my expectation is, I have no expectation that anything in my office is private. And if I have that expectation, I want something to be private, that's mine personally, then it's at my house. And it never gets into this building. So I agree. I think there's room to talk about some of these things. But I also, I have, on a number of them, I do have very, misgivings about it. And it's not, I don't think it's good I don't think it's good public policy. I'll leave it at that. Commissioner Marino, you're recognized.
Thank you, and this is for staff. We do have plans in place to renovate the building. And, you know, we went out, this was before a lot of us were even here, that this was in place. Some of the things that are being requested are probably in the bid. So can you give us, or can you, today might not be the, you know, give us the complete list, but maybe give us an update as to where we are in that process, where we are in the procurement process. You know, it is, the more you buy, the less it costs. Sometimes by doing that, you know, we have to wait a while. Do we have an ADA emergency procurement policy in place? If we don't, maybe that's something we need to put in place. But for the rest of us, you know, I don't know the time frame for the improvements. Are you starting on the 12th floor and working your way down? When you're doing the 12th floor, because we're such an old building, you know, are we moving lights? Are we putting in new electric? Can we put in at that time if we feel that we need an upgraded security system? I mean, we're in a very old building. So can you give us, does that help a little bit?
I actually agree. I would like to look further. I didn't have a great idea for the procurement. I'm not a fan of lumping all of this together like has been addressed. I think I would appreciate if we could take them individually. And yes, I've had some serious issues, and again, trying to not violate even sunshine or anything else, you know, requiring more information, I don't necessarily agree with, but that is why we're here. I mean, to have these conversations, we cannot have them in private. And so I didn't realize it was such a strain to have these conversations in a public setting, which then limits my ability to talk. And it's never my intention to annoy anyone, but if I come across the problem, the only place I can talk to my fellow commissioners is right here. And so I ask that you, if there's something you see I could do, not in the way I do my memos, but something our policies I'm unaware of that maybe we can address better, that's the feedback I would appreciate. And if you do need more background on anything, if I send out a memo, I am glad to provide that information and create a dialect. It also helps me to get to know my fellow commissioners better in a public setting. It also helps us to understand where each other is coming from without just, you know, jumping on to jump on. Like, I would like to have us be able to communicate and talk about things openly. This is how progress happens. But if we just all keep assuming everyone thinks or acts and feels a certain way, I want to hear, even if I don't agree with a commissioner, I want to hear their side of it and why. So this never was intended to be something horrible or something bad or something cumbersome to anyone. This was intended to open a dialect for certain issues I found. And if somebody wanted more detail, I am happy. They have reasons. I don't just throw things on there to throw things on there. I have done my research. I do look into things, and people will tell you almost maybe too much. I dig a lot. I read a lot. I love to read. Research is what I do. And so before I bring these things to the board, I would just like you to understand, if I've brought it to you, I have researched it. I have tried everything else. And if I'm bringing it to you, it's because there were no other avenues that I could take. And so even as far as one of the things on here was actually code enforcement. We were told last meeting that a zoning in progress or a moratorium for my residents wasn't possible. And it was, you know, an honest mistake, but that has been updated and corrected. And I would love if the county attorney would maybe fill everyone in on pausing it. So that's why that particular one was on here, because we're correcting misinformation.
Just to keep some sort of order going, can we go one item at a time?
Yes, please.
Okay, so,
Can we go back to just a short, brief discussion on the improvements to the building, because several of these things can fall under that.
Okay, we'll
So
go back.
if you can
we'll
give us a time frame, a little snippet of how we got to where we are, I think that would actually help all of us, because I ask the same questions, I want the lights changed in my office, but I know that because we're going to be doing renovations up there, I don't want to waste taxpayer dollars to do something temporary that's then going to get ripped up and replaced again. So if you could just guide us as to timeframes, what's included, give us, the Cliff Notes. You read a lot, the Cliff Notes, right?
Yes, ma'am. Understood. Isami Ayala, Director of Facilities Development and Operations. Yes, we have what is called the Governmental Center Renovation, Renewal and Replacement Project, the renovation project. That project is approved under the Capital Improvement Program, IST-funded program, which was approved in 2017. So back in 2017, moving forward, it was determined that coming 22-23, this project was to be implemented. In late 2021, getting prepared for the upcoming funding for design, we went ahead and issued 2 RFPs, one for design services, which has now been awarded by the board, and one for a construction manager at-risk services. Just to take a step back and kind of refresh the process that a CM contract entails, we get a construction manager that is responsible under contract to bid the work out as per county regulations. And we do have regulations in place that state, for many reasons, and I'm trying to keep it short, that we want bids to be out on the street for a number of days so that our small and minority businesses, as an example, get an opportunity to bid on those projects, right? So the CM conducts that process for us. So in this project, we have a design firm, an architect, that is NITA Architects, and then we have a CMR that is Whites. When we came to the board with the design contract, we were asked as to the possibility of building new, of renovating, right? And at that point, we were directed to do an assessment first. So to your question as to where we currently are, we are in the assessment phase. We receive the initial report. Our intent is to come back to this board with that report and a consultant services authorization so that if the board chooses, then we can proceed with design of the renovation work, because we do believe, and so does our design team, the contracted design team, that the building can be renovated. Once that happens, we do expect, and assuming we get authorization from the board to proceed, we do expect that it will take year and a half to complete the design process. And this is a renovation that entails every single component of this building. You may remember that back in January 2022, we came back to the board with some updated estimates on ISD and said, due to escalation and everything else that is happening in the scope of work, we believe we require some additional funding. So under the current approved plan, we have about $70 million, $69.5 million to be used for the renovation of this building. And that entails all the work that you can think of. It entails building systems, and it entails finishes. As county staff, we do have a preference to keep the work together, because then we benefit from volume of scales, making sure that we have one consistent approach. We certainly will proceed as needed if there's any given component that needs to be bidded out separately. But I will state that there is certainly a preference to make sure that we have a cohesive plan in place for the entire renovation. It is a project that we expect will occur in phases, because we have 12 floors to renovate, and we cannot vacate the building everything at the same time. So we're going to be moving through the building as different phases progress. Hopefully that was short enough.
And do you work from the top down or the bottom up?
That will be something to be assessed and determined during the design, and the design has not been initiated yet, because we were directed to do an assessment.
We will look to, I know that the 12th floor is my priority, and so we'll look to see if it's possible, which I think it would be, that we start on the 12th floor. There are elements that we pulled out based upon, Commissioner Baxter, Commissioner Baxter's comments about the flooring, and I think I've spoken to you all individually. And so we pulled that element out of the process, because we set the precedent when Commissioner Sachs came in and she had some issues, we did her floor. And so instead of just doing individual offices when the issue comes up, now that we've got Commissioner Baxter, we are moving forward, and it's our plan, and as I stated earlier, we have actually worked with our construction manager at Risk, and he has that bid for flooring on the streets right now. And so we here, commissioners, my job is to try to make your life a smooth transition into government, and then to support you throughout as much as possible. So we have already taken that step. It's dollars we're going to spend. The first estimate came in extremely high, and so we rejected it. They went back out for the bid, so we're waiting on the numbers to come in. And it was our intent to start that process, start with Commissioner Baxter's office, that side of the floor first, and then work our way around. And as I stated, I did talk to Commissioner Woodward, because she also had some concerns on the flooring. So that we worked out with her, and so we'll continue to move forward on that aspect of it. As far as the locks are concerned, we actually had a SEPTED study done by the Sheriff's Office a number of years ago.
SEPTED, crime.
I'm sorry.
That's
Crime
okay.
prevention
through
through
environmental
environmental
design. Okay, did you hear?
Yeah, so we looked at that. We did make changes over the last couple of years to handle phase 1, and I want to say phase 2 that they identified. And then the other things that they came up with in that report will be addressed during the renovation of this building. We don't talk about security issues in this kind of setting. We should not talk about those things in this setting. But we're conscious of it. We're very conscious of it. We've already put some measures in place to make sure that we're all safe in this building. We will continue with that process, and that will be a part of our overall process. The purchasing code, and I know I'm switching off to another one, but it's all in here together. We are in the process of revising our existing purchasing code. That code will come to you. That code is looking at how do we streamline processes. We hired a new purchasing director from outside. She's bringing in new ideas, fresh ideas. She's looking at what we're doing. She's getting input from our departments, and also measuring some other things, and working with ISME as well on the capital side of things. How do we streamline that process? So we are conscious of it. We're looking at it. We'll bring it back to this board. We will workshop it, and at that point, you can definitely give us your opinion. When we start to talk about the 5,000 level in our code, we bid those things out because we've already bid it. We may have 3 people on annual, 3 companies on annual, and then we will bid whatever out to those entities. When things cannot, if they're within the scope of what has been bidded as far as services and content, if for whatever reason a specific specification is not a part of that, then that is when we need to address how do we handle that? Do we go outside? But if those basic needs are a part, or what you're looking for, we should find it within the bids that we've already accepted, and we're contracting can bid those things out. So those are some of the things, and we will have our procurement director. We did a high-level report or conversation with Commissioner Baxter. We'll do some others. But one of the suggestions was, why don't you do it at a workshop? That way everybody hears everything all at the same time. And so we're trying to do that as well. So we've added housing and economic development, which is a major issue, and we want everybody to hear everything at one time. So we've added that to our January 31st meeting. They will be the first thing, and then you'll go to density. But getting back to the process, We're very open to sitting down with commissioners and talking about this, but I have rules and regulations that you have adopted and set. And so I have to try to work within those rules and regulations, and when I can, I do that. But when it exceeds that, then I'm not the policymaker. And so that issue does need to come to the board.
Okay,
Let me just
So,
do one more.
all right.
Okay. I know that when this process took place about a year ago, the construction manager came to each commissioner's office and walked through the office with us, and we said things like, I said to them, can you address the lights and all that kind of stuff? So we have 3 new commissioners. Is there an opportunity for the construction manager to talk to the 3 commissioners to get their input also? I don't want it to delay the process, but there may be things in their office that have already been brought up. And then you can just say, yes, that's already covered.
Part of our design process, which is what we're hoping we're going to be able to move forward, is called the programming phase, and that's precisely what we do. We go out to all the stakeholders, all the main users, and have a conversation about needs, expectations, and then we bring that back into the county standards and a comprehensive project. So yes, it will be addressed.
Okay, so then the new commissioners will have an opportunity to have their input heard also.
Can
And
I
any
just-
commissioner that did not get that service, I wasn't.
I didn't
So,
get it.
Well,
What?
we will ensure that everyone gets it.
I just want to add before we go to Commissioner or Vice Mayor Sachs. You don't have to worry about me with furniture. When my wife met me, I had beach chairs, 2 very large speakers, a very large TV in my living room. I was very happy. So I did have a water bag. The carpet, I had this really gold carpet, and then I had wallpaper with tulips. Part of it was metallic all over the house. So, as you know, so you don't want to be talking to me about design. And now that we have added a little levity to this, Vice Mayor Sachs.
Thank you. I hope, Commissioner Baxter, that this has helped you understand that we're one family here. And the best person to speak to about any of these issues that we have gone over a few minutes ago, in the last 30 minutes, is our staff, is Ms. Baker, and she'll sit with you. And though I didn't get a tour of my office to figure out what I wanted, what I didn't want, but I'm sure now that someone will come and sit
Maybe
with
you were absent that day.
that someone will come. If you talk to Ms. Baker, she will take care of any of the issues that you may have on your office. But I do want to make something public that I think is important. We are having renovations in this county building, as we are, and also the South County building. Other than ADA issues, I think we need to make it very known to the public that the public access to a government building, those are the areas that the money should go towards first. We on the 12th floor, we have I got a bathroom that's real close, I've got a kitchen down the hallway. But I think that other than the carpet for ADA purposes, I think that any monies that go into our county government building should first go into those areas that serve the majority of the public, rather than serve the whims or the design interests of county commissioners. So I want everyone on the record to know that I'm sure this is something that is done in this building. We have public that go into many different floors of this building, and those are the areas that should be first focused on making them accessible and easy for the public, because we are public servants. We serve the public, and so whatever monies comes in from taxpayers should go to serving the public first. Little things like lights or carpeting or desks. Who spray painted their desks? Somebody spray painted? All right. That's something we could take care of on our own dime, or speak to staff. They're very accessible, very easy to discuss these issues with. But first and foremost, taxpayer money needs to go to serving the taxpayers and not necessarily to making our offices more decorative or anything, other than the ADA. So I hope that answers your questions. Has that, Commissioner Baxter, are you?
Are you?
You're recognized, Commissioner Baxter.
Thank you, Mayor. So a few things, a lot was said. The only time I bring things to this board is, I won't say always, but 99% of the time I've already addressed with staff or Ms. Baker, and they've told me this is the policy, or this is how it is, and you have to ask your commissioners if you'd like it differently. That's why this stuff is on here. Okay, so please assume I've always gone to staff first, okay? Secondly, as far as, obviously, public requests, records requests, all of that, we have very public offices. That does not mean we do not also have a need for safety. So the things I was asking for were never about decor. It was about the ADA regulation or a safety issue that I had found. Never about decor, making my office pretty, to any means. That would never be the case. But I am curious, under what circumstances would emergency purchases be allowed in our current policy? And I wanted to ask the county attorney that.
Certainly, we have the ability to do an emergency purchase whenever there's a public health, safety, or welfare issue, or whenever we have an employee who has a situation that might need an accommodation. And it's not clear to me from the description I heard whether we're actually pursuing an emergency purchase for the carpet or not, but considering health issues, it would certainly fall within if the board determines that that's appropriate.
And as far as safety, would that also,
I think that's a harder call because we already have locks, so I really don't know that I would say that changing locks is a safety issue unless your locks are totally not working.
more so that the accessibility to the keys to those locks is for everyone on the 12th floor?
Can I just make a suggestion? I think it's relatively easy to have a lock rekeyed. And, and I know we have locks, so we have locks to our outer door, to our offices. So we have, in addition to the security to get onto our floor, we have locks then on the outer doors, and they could be keyed differently to the inner doors. So you could even, in fact, have only one key to your inner door. And then you'll have no janitorial service except when you're in there.
Well, I think it's also.
Oh, no, somebody has to be able to get in.
Fire.
Yeah, people have to have access to the office.
But
Facilities
that
have
would be
to
my
have
suggestion.
access.
If it's safety issue, I think with the existing equipment, and I will tell you, my background's in technology. Where's my card? It's in my pocket, right? These use something called RFID, very similar to what's used also on credit cards and other things. These can be cloned. They're only as safe, like anything, of the people who have them. And so if somebody were to set our badge down and somebody had the device that could clone one of these, they can read the card, take a blank one, and make a duplicate of it. The devices they're available online, and so I think the idea that we're extra safe because these are convenient. Okay, the real thing with these is they're very convenient. They can be turned on and turned off. You can do a whole class of people and turn them on and turn them off.
Mayor, may I?
I'm just going to finish my description of what these are, and my understanding of them. So no security is any better. There is no security better than the people that are implementing it. Right. That's the key, not the device. So, but the floor is yours.
Just the keys themselves, the physical keys, were readily accessible to anyone on the 12th floor, where a duplicator would not be. But aside from that, it also keeps log of who has been in and out of our office, and only people who are given access via these cards then would have the ability to get in and out of our offices, not just anyone who walks into a room and grabs a key.
So if the issue is the box of keys, then secure the box of keys.
Then it has to be accessible to firefighter, fire rescue. Like there's, from my understanding, there's a,
But they have means to do that. They have
Okay.
lock boxes
They have a,
and
they have,
things.
and they have a special key that opens
Right,
for these.
right. Facilities is
They
used to
use them
this.
to get into HOAs, they use them to get
Right,
into,
right.
people put them on their homes in case they need emergency services and they don't want their door kicked down, so they get a special lock that they put on
Yeah,
there.
I'm pretty confident facilities can overcome that, yeah.
Thank you. All right, so we can deal with the, I think, the safety issue. All right, what's next?
the code enforcement, just asking to revisit that and an update.
Okay, why don't we
From-
do this?
The attorney.
You want to give an update, and then we can ask the board where they sit on this.
Okay, if my staff would like to come up. After the last board meeting, when we had extensive discussions about what our options were as far as a moratorium or some sort of an ordinance that would stop the current truck ordinance from being enforced in the acreage, we did additional research, and although a moratorium is off the table, we did discover that there is an additional option for us if the board so chooses, and that would be us using our police powers. And basically, because the board is moving forward with possibly making changes to this ordinance, that you would
Just to help us, since we're doing this during commissioner comments, this is not a public hearing, this is not an agenda item.
correct.
Can I just ask the board, is this something you want to move forward on today? And I will go down, I just ask you, is this something you want to move forward on today, Commissioner Barnett? Commissioner Woodward, do you want to move forward on this today? I have a 2:30 meeting. You don't want to move forward. Do you want to move forward on this today? Would you like to move forward on this?
No, I would like, no.
Okay. Commissioner Bernard, would you like to move forward on this today?
I have 3 kids to pick up at
Okay.
2:30.
Okay, so the board
Next
doesn't-
meeting?
Well, I think what you're hearing from the board is we don't want to move forward on it until it's an agenda item.
Was that clear when we took roll? So Commissioner Woodward, Commissioner Barnett, everyone wants to wait and have the code enforcement of the people that came before us crying last week at a later date? At an agenda item?
What's the process to make this, and I don't want to rush through this because I do take the comments
This is
serious.
just pausing the code enforcement. This
Okay,
isn't
but
digging
I
into
have
thing, and it
changing
causes
it.
a
2:30
code
meeting, so I'm
enforcement.
going to have to leave, and I don't want to miss it. I
There's
already had to
lots
leave.
there's lots of
wanna give
unintended
it time.
consequences of pausing code enforcement. And I don't think this is the venue for having staff lay out what could happen out.
Ms. Baker, is
how
it
do we make
possible
it an
for us to
agenda?
add this to the workshop that's coming on next week?
January 31st even?
Can we just
We
reserve-
are, I mean, I don't believe in, staff, you speak up here. One of the reasons we pushed it out to March was so that we could do our due diligence and give you all of the facts as opposed to rushing through it, so we don't have to come back to you once you make a decision. However, if you
Allow
want
her
it,
to
we
have-
can.
I believe that we should just allow Commissioner Baxter to have that discussion.
We can add it on.
On Tuesday, so in that way, to not allow us to, so we don't have to rush it.
We have a 2:00 item, that's about an hour, and so we could add on something at 3. I don't know, I don't believe we're gonna have all the information that you're looking for in order to make a decision, but if it's just for Commissioner Baxter to kind of lay out her thing, we can definitely do it after the 2:00 session.
This isn't a matter of laying out what the new go ahead.
No,
Okay, let me
excuse
just take
me.
control.
Please, Mayor.
All right.
Please.
Vice Mayor Sachs, you're recognized. Commissioner Baxter, you'll be recognized afterwards.
I don't need to be rude, but there are Robert's Rules of Order and there's protocol, so that all of us will have an opportunity to speak once we're recognized by the mayor, unless there is something of personal concern. So I don't mean to be rude to you.
I apologize.
No, you don't need, you should apologize after if you do it again, now that you know that we follow Robert's Rules of Order, to be recognized by the mayor. unless it's a matter of personal privilege. Mayor, what I want to say is this. I am not prepared to discuss an issue of this importance without the county being properly prepared. At the moment that we are prepared with an investigation, these are serious allegations that were made in a public forum by citizens. We need to take them seriously, as I know that we will in this county government. There needs to be an investigation. My information is that there is an ongoing investigation. Until that investigation is completed, we should never, or we should, I suggest, certainly recommend, that we not go down the path of discussing things, facts, before that investigation is completed. So I am requesting that once we, as a county government, finish an investigation as to the allegations that were made in this forum, at that moment, at that time, when we've completed the investigation, then we can go ahead, and we have received the investigation, then we can go ahead and discuss the ramifications and consequences of that investigation. So I move at this point that we discuss these issues at a moment, at a time, subsequent to when we have completed the investigation.
Thank you, Vice Mayor. Okay, Commissioner Baxter, you're recognized.
This wasn't a vote on any of these issues. It wasn't a vote to set new policy. This wasn't a vote to dig into what is currently or not currently going on. This was solely a vote to give my residents, my constituents, peace of mind at night when they go to sleep, peace of mind that they're not racking up fines, and peace of mind that we are listening to them and willing to help them. This wasn't a vote of, we need a new policy. This was, we were misinformed at the meeting about the legal, what we could do legally to help them. And the consensus then was that we wanted to help them if possible, and we found a way to do that by just pausing the enforcement until we work through the investigation, just until we work through all of those important issues that we want to dig into. And that's all I was saying.
Okay, thank you very much. Thank you. All right, we're done with you guys.
It's a motion.
You made a motion?
Yeah.
What was, did you get a motion?
The motion was to have, after we complete our investigation, to set this on the agenda so that we can discuss it with all the facts being present.
I think, and just
Sure.
rather than move forward with that right now, let me just clarify that we did, when we left that meeting, we put this specifically to come back in March.
Oh, okay.
Okay, so it was set to all come back and bring it all back, because the public needs to be involved as well.
I withdraw the motion then.
Thank you.
We already have a date set.
Okay.
Excellent, thank you.
Okay, thank you. All right. And,
This is a separate issue, just to be clear. This wasn't the issue to come back in March.
okay. All right. Anything else? All right. I've got a couple minutes there's a couple of comments I'd like to make. There were a couple incidents last Saturday in this community. We had a situation where
We didn't discuss that before.
anti-Semitic messages were projected on the side of a private building.
You know, at this point,
We had
at a later date.
we had literature distributed in Boca, quite offensive, and we learned that law enforcement is very limited in what they can do to combat hate speech, whether it's anti-Semitic or anything else. And it was very disturbing to me because of who I was born to. And But I have to tell you, this community has come together and spoken out, united against these folks that are seeking to spread their hate throughout not only Palm Beach County, the state of Florida, the entire United States, and the world. And it's very disturbing that it happened here. 1 in 8 people in Palm Beach County, if you're not aware, is of the Jewish faith. And to have people come into our community to spread their hate, to create chaos is not acceptable. And people from all corners of this community, all faiths, all colors, all national origins, came together on Saturday night and stood united to send the message to these folks. We're a very welcoming, loving community. Most of us came from somewhere else and have been welcomed into Palm Beach County. And we will continue to welcome everybody into Palm Beach County, but I can assure you we are not going to welcome their hatred and have that imposed on us. And let it be clear to everybody. We love you. We all want to live together in peace and harmony. But if you're coming here to spread your hate, we are going to be working to make sure that there are laws in place that will hold you accountable. And I just couldn't be more proud of our community and the way they came together. And unfortunately, there was another incident yesterday. They did arrest somebody. And so congratulations to, I believe it was in Atlantis, for your work. But never again, never again. Thank you. Commissioner Vice Mayor, you're recognized.
Thank you, Mayor, and this is why you're the mayor of our county, because you express the principles and ideals of Palm Beach County in the most passionate way. And I'm proud to have you as our mayor and our spokesperson. Thank you.
All right. Anything else for the good of the order? Seeing none, this meeting is adjourned.